and a little bit more on how the canon was selected. First thing I want to talk about today is inerrancy. What do you know about inerrancy as a doctrine for the Bible?
No error.
No error.
Well, God doesn't make any errors, but men make mistakes.
Yeah, men make plenty. I know I do. Yeah, this is a doctrine that is actually under attack in our church. And there are many very senior, very well listened to Christian leaders that believe we should abandon the doctrine of inerrancy. And they have good arguments for that. But I think, and they have very strong opinions about that. But I think the problem is this idea of inerrancy or infallibility. Now, we believe God is infallible or doesn't make false. But inerrancy is like, hey, you got to kind of drill down a little bit and define what you mean by inerrancy. And I think what you'll see, especially in writing, when people talk about inerrancy, the way they define it is different. So they're not talking about the same things. And if we're talking about word for word accurate, well, we already know that's not true because we're not reading in the first language. So the words that we read are not the words that were written. So it can't be inerrant from a word for word perspective. Inerrancy really means message based. And what we mean, or what I mean, and what I think most Christian scholars who will promote inerrancy as a doctrine, they mean no contradictions in the Bible. They mean by message, not by specific words. And this is a challenged issue that I think we need to discuss in some detail to understand how to address it when someone might confront us. I think actually Charles Ryrie has a great quote from 1981. He said, "Inerrancy of the Bible means simply that the Bible tells the truth. Truth can and does include approximations, free quotations, language of appearances, and different accounts of the same event, as long as those do not contradict." So, contradiction doesn't necessarily mean word for word accurate. So, well, I like what J. Warner Wallace kind of says when he's kind of going through the varying accounts in the Bible, and he uses this concept of witnesses. You have 3 witnesses to a crime, and they separate them at the crime scene because he knows they're going to say different things, and doesn't want them to have a chance to talk to each other. But the fact they say different things doesn't mean that they are not telling the truth. They're just telling a different thing that is true about that event. And I think that's one that I think people struggle with sometimes, is this idea that it should say exactly the same in every synoptic gospel, and it doesn't. And I wanted to use the ball as kind of just an example. I asked for 3 words to describe this cyan-colored ball that has a rough, square-lined texture on it, and it's a spherical ball. And I noticed that only one of the words I just used is on the board over here. So out of our group, we said round, it's a sphere. Round is a circle. Sorry, guys. Blue, but what kind of blue? Blue's light blue, dark blue. It's pretty. Sky blue.
Different blues.
It's pretty, I guess.
I said it was pretty.
It's pretty. It's a pretty blue. Revolves. I guess I could spin it on my finger, but I don't think I'd probably drop it. But my point is, all of those words are true about this ball from the perspective of the person that was looking at it. So if I wrote my account and used 3 of those words, and you wrote your account and used 3 different words, it's not a contradiction. It's just a different perspective. The words you use and the fact that I choose to focus on the texture and the shape where someone else says it's pretty. I didn't say it was pretty, but it is. It's not different because Dorinda says it's pretty and I say it's rough.
Look at Matthew, Mark, and Luke. They all have different versions of Jesus.
Exactly. And I think we need to understand that that's okay. Anybody that works in the police department as a detective says eyewitnesses never agree. If they agree, you assume they're telling a lie. Actually, if you're word for word the same, you would assume that there was corroboration, and thus you'd have to consider they're all untrue. So,
Do you think that some people oppose the inerrancy because, like the Roman Church, they wrote it so that nobody could disagree with them? I mean, that was a cause for war. You could be put to death.
oh yeah.
So they really went overboard on that.
Well, I think the authority within the Christian church has always been scared of being questioned.
So,
You know, it's truth versus pride. And I think we should always be on the pride side, not on the, go ahead, on the truth side, not the pride. Go ahead.
I think the different eyewitnesses can, by reading them in the Bible, you can get the whole picture of what's going on. Because some, they didn't mention this particular part, and then the other one didn't mention, but when you read the entirety of it, then you have the idea, oh, this is happening, this is what happened.
I think you're right, Annie. I think if we view, let's say, the Gospels as not contradicting each other, when we read these differing stories, you get a bigger picture that's beyond either one of them by themselves. And vantage point. And we're going to go a little deeper on that, but I want to just start by, people are going to go after the contradictions in the Bible. This is what the atheists go after. Bart Ehrman is a famous one that goes after all the contradictions in the Bible. He's one that helps to translate our Bible, but that's his opinion. I found a website called atheist.org, and they listed 15 contradictions in the Bible. And I'm sure if you're reading ahead, you're going to scratch your heads. It's like the Sabbath. Did you know that the Sabbath in the Old Testament is different than the one in the New Testament? I'm like, yeah, I knew that because, well, it's treated differently, right? I mean, the permanence of earth. In one place it says the earth will never pass away, and another one says it's going to dissolve like... So these are the things like...
Sabbath in the Old Testament was different than the one in the New Testament.
Because of what Paul says, you can use any day. You shouldn't treat anybody wrong for the day they choose to worship or their Sabbath days. And he refers to it as Sabbath days, not singular, right? And there's subtle things in each one of these where you can see where, oh yeah, the Old Testament says this, the New Testament says this, but we understand that something changed between the Old Testament and the New Testament. And in fact, there's another website called AnsweringChristianity.com, again, another atheist website. They list 101 contradictions in the Bible. Most of them are head scratchers because they're like, oh, if you read 2 more sentences, you might be able to answer the question. But they had 6 that were, well, they were interesting. And if you get to the point where you ask somebody, it's like, what contradictions are you talking about? If they come back and give you one, we need to be prepared on how to address it. So we're going to just talk about a few of these. The genealogies of Jesus in Matthew and Luke. Was John the Baptist Elijah? Right? Well, the Bible, we'll see what the Bible has to say. How Jesus called Peter to be a disciple. It's very different in the Gospel of Matthew from the Gospel of John. Jairus' daughter. The accounts in Mark and Matthew have significant differences. The death of Judas. In one case he hangs himself, another one he falls and splits open. And then the denial of Peter, which I didn't even know this one until I looked it up and I was like, oh, I'd never seen it. So we're going to talk about these one at a time. And I think it will demonstrate where they see contradiction and how we can help them to see that it's not a contradiction. So the first... I can't read the genealogy, so I'm going to let someone a lot better than me read them. But I'm going to have it read all the way through these so we can kind of hear it.
Kind of skim through.
And listen carefully to the names. You need to listen for Zerubbabel, David. Listen for the women's names as we go through these. So this is Matthew, chapter 1, verses 1 to 17.
The Gospel according to Matthew. Matthew chapter 1. This is the genealogy of Jesus the Messiah, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham was the father of Isaac, Isaac the father of Jacob, Jacob the father of Judah and his brothers, Judah the father of Perez and Zerah, whose mother was Tamar, Perez the father of Hezron, Hezron the father of Ram, Ram the father of Amminadab, Amminadab the father of Nahshon, Nahshon the father of Salmon, Salmon the father of Boaz, whose mother was Rahab, Boaz the father of Obed, whose mother was Ruth, Obed the father of Jesse, and Jesse the father of King David. David was the father of Solomon, whose mother had been Uriah's wife. Solomon the father of Rehoboam, Rehoboam the father of Abijah, Abijah the father of Asa, Asa the father of Jehoshaphat, Jehoshaphat the father of Jehoram, Jehoram the father of Uzziah, Uzziah the father of Jotham, Jotham the father of Ahaz, Ahaz the father of Hezekiah, Hezekiah the father of Manasseh, Manasseh the father of Amon, Amon the father of Josiah, and Josiah the father of Jeconiah and his brothers at the time of the exile to Babylon. After the exile to Babylon, Jeconiah was the father of Shealtiel, Shealtiel the father of Zerubbabel, Zerubbabel the father of Abihud, Abihud the father of Eliakim, Eliakim the father of Azor, Azor the father of Zadok, Zadok the father of Achim, Achim the father of Elihud, Elihud the father of Eleazar, Eleazar the father of Mathan, Mathan the father of Jacob, and Jacob the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary, and Mary was the mother of Jesus, who is called the Messiah. Thus there were 14 generations in all from Abraham to David, 14 from David to the exile to Babylon, and 14 from the exile to the Messiah.
So that's the reason I had him read it and said to me, what's this guy's name? I can't remember what his name is. I meant to write it down. These are available on YouTube. It's a great reader. So that's Matthew, and Matthew wrote his genealogy. Well, we believe Matthew wrote his gospel for the Jewish audience, the Hebrew audience. So how he wrote this would have been focused on that. Now let's listen to Luke. Luke was more historical. He was writing to Gentiles. So this is Luke's, and again, listen to the similar words and listen for the ones you didn't hear the first time around. Maybe.
When he began his ministry, he was the son, so it was thought, of Joseph, the son of Heli, the son of Matthan, the son of Levi, the son of Melchi, the son of Jami, the son of Joseph, the son of Mattathias, the son of Amos, the son of Nahum, the son of Esli, the son of Naji, the son of Micah, the son of Mattathias, the son of Simon, the son of Jossa, the son of Joda, the son of Joanam, the son of Risa, the son of Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, the son of Nera, the son of Melchi, the son of Adi, the son of Kosa, the son of Elmadam, the son of the son of Joshua, the son of Eliezer, the son of Jorim, the son of Matthan, the son of Levi, the son of Simeon, the son of Judah, the son of Joseph, the son of Jonam, the son of Eliakim, the son of Mela, the son of Menah, the son of Mattathias, the son of Nathan, the son of David, the son of Jesse, the son of Obed, the son of Boaz, the son of Salmon, the son of Nahshon, the son of Amminadab, the son of Ram, the son of Ezron, the son of Perez, the son of Judah, the son of Jacob, the son of Isaac, the son of Abraham, the son of Terah, the son of Nahor, the son of Serug, the son of Ru, the son of Peleg, the son of Eba, the son of Sheba, the son of Canaan, the son of Aphaxah, the son of Shem, the son of Noah, the son of Lamech, the son of Methuselah, the son of Enoch, the son of Jared, the son of Mahalalel, the son of Kenan, the son of Enoch, the son of Seth, the son of Adam, the son of God.
Interesting, huh?
There was a lot of them in there, wasn't there?
Yeah, well, Luke took his genealogy all the way back to Adam, where Matthew only went back to Abraham. That's a big difference. But if you noticed, from Jesus all the way back to Zerubbabel is different in both genealogies. And then after Zerubbabel, it's different all the way back to David. After David, it's pretty consistent on the way back. In Matthew's gospel, he has a bunch of women.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Because Hebrews didn't really respect women very much, yet Matthew's gospel has some very interesting women in it.
Also mentioned Uriah.
Oh, well, yes, the one that shall not be named. It starts with Tamar, who was the daughter-in-law of Judah, acted like a prostitute and got pregnant. I mean, that's in the lineage of Jesus. Rahab, who was the prostitute in Jericho, also in the lineage of Jesus.
You left the wire and rope down.
Yep, that's him. It's her, and then Ruth, a Moabitess, which was the hated people, also, who happens to have married Boaz, who is the great-grandchild of Rahab. Grandchild of Rahab. And then thought to be the son of Joseph. Is that, yeah, that's a little bit of a jab. So, are these contradictions? They're very different.
No, they've always been used in Scripture to teach that God uses even the lowest people of the world for His glory.
Yeah, well, definitely. Now, I think most scholars will say that Matthew's intent was to show Mary's line, because Jesus had no genetic link to Joseph. It made no sense to show Joseph's genealogy, so it's actually Mary's. That may be true. I can't prove that. Where Luke is speaking into Gentiles, and so you have to do the formal one, which would have been through Joseph, and that's the reason he says, presumed to be Joseph's son, and then Joseph was the son of, and starts from Joseph. Where you look at Matthew, it doesn't start with Joseph was the son of, it's Mary, whose father was, and it goes down, it looks like it goes through Mary's line. Another thing about genealogies in the ancient world is they didn't really, it's not like our family trees. Sometimes they skip people. When it says son of, it can be the great-great-grandson of. It doesn't have to be the literal son. That's the reason it's really tough to lay back a chronology using a genealogy in a Hebrew text, because they don't think like we do. It could be, but when you see things that don't seem to line up, where one has 10 generations and one seems to have 2 generations, it's not a contradiction. It's just a different level of detail. And that's what we really have to bring to bear on the argument about this being a contradiction is, yes, in Matthew, he's focusing on things that would challenge the Hebrew reader. But it's important. These are people that are included in the line of Jesus. I might belong in this, is what it says to me. And then, obviously, Luke is trying to be more specific, going all the way back to Adam, but he starts it by not really the son of Joseph, right? So, it's...
Or doesn't Luke use Nathan too? Because I believe that Joseph was from the kingdom line too, but Nathan.
Oh, yeah.
After Solomon, it splits. Either the other one Jeroboam, the other one goes to Nathan.
Mary's through Solomon, and the Joseph comes through Nathan.
Well, Solomon. After Solomon, it splits.
Oh, it's after Solomon.
The one in Luke goes to Nathan, the one in Matthew goes to...
Jeroboam? Okay.
Not Jeroboam.
Rehoboam. So, again, not a contradiction. People will challenge it, and you can't deal with the unreasonable, but it's very reasonable to say these are talking about the same person. Both genealogies are completely okay. They're just different because they're focused on different things. All right. Next.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Next is, was John the Baptist Elijah? Well, Matthew 17:11 through 13 says this. Jesus replied, "To be sure, Elijah comes and will restore all things, but I tell you, Elijah has already come. They did not recognize him, but have done to him everything they wished. In the same way, the Son of Man is going to suffer at their hands." Then the disciples understood that he was talking to them about John the Baptist. So the skeptics are going to say, well, Jesus just confirmed that John the Baptist is Elijah. But in Luke's gospel, it says, "And he will go on before the Lord in the spirit and power of Elijah, to turn the hearts of the parents to the children, and the disobedient to the wisdom of the righteous, to make ready a people prepared for the Lord." So, do those contradict? To the atheists, they say one says John the Baptist is Elijah, the other one says he's not Elijah.
Spirit of Elijah.
It's the spirit of Elijah. But you can see that if someone just tossed one of these at you and you looked at it, you might be caught off guard. That's the reason I think it's really important for us to educate ourselves so we're kind of prepared for it. This is actually one it's in the top 10 on most of the atheist websites. Good luck to them on that one.
They're kind of just grasping at straws.
Well, they are. The next one is one that I have grappled with. Jesus calls Peter to be a disciple. In Matthew chapter 4, verses 18 to 20, it says this. "As Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, called Peter, and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. 'Come, follow me,' Jesus said, 'and I will send you out to fish for people.' At once they left their nets and followed him." That's the call of Peter to be a disciple, right? But what about the Gospel of John? In John chapter 1, it says this in verse 40. "Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, was one of the two that heard what John the Baptist that is, had said and who had followed Jesus. The first thing Andrew did was to find his brother Simon and tell him, 'We have found the Messiah,' that is, the Christ. And he brought him to Jesus, and Jesus looked at him and said, 'You are Simon, son of John. You will be called Cephas,' or Peter." So, what happened?
This could be like two different timelines, like the other one happened before, and then the other one happened later on.
Which one happened first? Do you
I
think?
think when Andrew introduced Simon to Jesus Christ is the one that happened first. And then the second one, well, they already knew Jesus Christ. And then they were like doing their job as a fisherman. And then along the way, Jesus went and then they asked, "Come, follow me." It doesn't mean that it's the first time that they met Jesus. They could have met Jesus before.
Yeah, really good.
Somewhere along there, Jesus had them bring in all the fish.
Yeah, well, that's actually in the second one, right? Or the Matthew. Well, there's actually three things to concentrate if you're going to try to address someone that thought this was a contradiction. The first is, in John, Jesus never calls Andrew and Simon to be disciples. There's no call. They came to meet him, and they talked to him. And Jesus called Simon Cephas, or Peter. Well, second clue is in Matthew. Simon called Peter. So who told him he was Peter if they'd never met Jesus before? Well, Jesus called him Peter. So obviously they has to have met Peter before to call him Peter. So that's the second. And then the third is they left so immediately. And I've always, when I heard the story the first time, it's like, well, they left their business and everything just randomly. That's crazy. Well, they knew Jesus. And they knew what he was already doing. And it's like, and when he comes and says, "Follow me," I'm in because I know him already. And it makes more sense. It's not a contradiction. It's exactly what Annie said. It's a differing details on a different timeline. And one thing people struggle with is the fact that especially the Gospel of John is not written chronologically, right? So John has a story here and a story here. It's like he's sitting around the dinner table and he remembers an old story and he goes back 10 years and then he goes back to his narrative. That's just kind of how it's written. And in fact, most of the Gospels are not purely chronologies because Hebrew writing is rarely, if ever, even their historical accounts. If you look in the Kings and Chronicles, they'll go along a storyline and then all of a sudden they reset the story and they go along the storyline again. It's just their mind.
Even the Old Testament.
Oh, the old,
yeah,
well, Moses.
Genesis.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the Pentateuch is full of these where you take a timeline up here and then all of a sudden you reset.
Right.
And then you give more detail and you're like, did it just happen twice? No, it's the same story. It's just...
I got confused before. It's like,
Twice? It happened twice? The creation happened twice?
Well, and that's actually a contradiction people use as well, but it's just the way Hebrews in that time and period wrote. It's the Greek-Roman influences on us that make us want this to be so structured chronologically. The Bible's not intended to be that way. So when a story in Matthew or Mark are off balance, it's like, don't use the chronology to claim contradiction because you're talking cross purposes with a culture that didn't even think the same way you do. So this one, no, perfectly explainable. But you better think about it so you're ready for this, because this is probably one of the biggest ones. Another one, and this is one I was not aware of, was when Peter denies Jesus. In John chapter 13, verse 38, then Jesus answered, "Will you really lay down your life for me? Very truly, I tell you, before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times." And Peter obviously doesn't believe that's going to happen, right? And then later in the story, we pick it up in chapter 18, verse 21. And again, Peter denied. And at that moment, the rooster began to crow. The 3rd time, right? Well, Mark says this. In chapter 14, verse 30, "Truly, I tell you," Jesus answered, "today, yes, tonight, before the rooster crows twice, you yourself will deny me 3 times." Twice. And then in verse 72, it says, "Immediately after the rooster crowed the 2nd time, then Peter remembered the word Jesus had spoken to him. Before the rooster crows twice, you will disown me 3 times. And he broke down and wept." So this is the one that people pound on. Mark says the rooster crowed twice. John says the moment the rooster cried.
No, we didn't say that.
He does say that. The moment a rooster began to crow. So what do you do with this one?
No, it says the rooster crow, you will disown me 3 times. It didn't talk about how many times the rooster will crow.
Well, but it says the very moment the rooster began to crow.
No, but he says you deny him 3 times.
Yes.
So which one?
This is the 3rd, the moment of the 3rd, right? You're absolutely right. We do not know if the rooster crowed once before we got to this.
Yes.
John doesn't think it's important. John says, when the rooster crows, by the time the rooster crows, you're going to disown me. Once, twice.
3 times. You're going to disown me 3 times.
And that is in each one of the accounts. The 3 times is consistent. Is it a contradiction?
I don't think so. It's just a different way of saying it.
yes.
Okay. Even if John thought once, and Mark's thought twice, is it a contradiction?
No.
Why? Because what's the purpose of the passage?
John was only focusing on the moment he acknowledges that he denied Jesus 3 times.
That's the point. The point of the story is not how many times the rooster crows.
It's just
The purpose of the story is Jesus foretelling, Peter, you're going to deny me 3 times. Okay, and 3 is an important number, right? So that's, whether it's 1 or 2, it doesn't change the story at all. It's not a contradiction, it's a different detail. And John probably meant the second time. It just is that really important? Well, no, it's not important to the story at all. But you can see how people can try to hammer on this as a contradiction. One or two. And my point is, the story's the same.
Just chop his head off. He's going to crow anyway.
All right. Next is Jairus' daughter. And this is a tough one, actually. In Matthew chapter 9, verse 18, while he was saying this, a synagogue leader came and knelt before him and said, "My daughter has just died, but come and put your hand on her and she will live." Okay? But in Mark, it says this, chapter 5, verse 23. And he pleaded earnestly with him, "My little daughter is dying. Please come and put your hands on her so that she may be healed and live."
Now, see, I have caught that before. The difference in the two.
So, is this a contradiction?
Two different people.
No, this is definitely Jairus in both cases.
I mean, it's in two different books.
It is. But was she dead or was she dying?
He doesn't remember. It's when he
both
wrote it.
statement.
Both are true. If I tell you that, is it a contradiction? They're both are 100% true. Because, wait, don't go there. You're going to take my fire away. In most cases, when people says it's a contradiction, they need to read a little further. In the Gospel of Mark, it goes on and says, while Jesus was still speaking, some people came from the house of Jairus, the synagogue leader. "Your daughter is dead." They said, "Why bother the teacher anymore?" Overhearing what they said, Jesus told him, "Don't be afraid, just believe." So Jairus knew that his daughter had died before they went back. In both accounts, the fact that Matthew does not differentiate the conversation. In Matthew, it's like one sentence. In Mark, it's like 12 verses. Much more detailed to the story.
Just look at this. He said first the line Mark 5:23, and then the account of 5:35 to 36 happened, and then he said the account in Matthew.
Yeah, Matthew basically is probably Matthew's verse probably comes down here, right? And it aligns perfectly. Matthew is not worried about all the back and forth. He's focused on the daughter's dead, and Jairus is believing. Jesus says, "If you believe," right? So Jairus says, "I believe. Come heal my daughter." That's the point of the story.
Okay, so when Jairus was telling Jesus his daughter is dying, and then he received the message, "Hey, your daughter died."
Yes, and then Jairus.
And then then Matthew, that's his account.
Yeah, I would actually slide this all the way down to here and say, Jesus says, "Don't be afraid, just believe," and then Jairus says, "Please come and put your hand on my daughter so that she may live."
Yeah.
It's not a different story. If you look at it,
It's a different timeline of things right.
yeah, the details and the way it was told, like the ball, are different, but the message is the same. The girl has died. Jesus is going to show he is God. Right? I mean, that's the message. All right. One more. And this is one that I have to admit, I struggled with this one for a really, really long time. The death of Judas. So Matthew chapter 27 verse 5 says this, and this is the number one that the atheists tend to like to go after because most Christians don't know how to answer this. Most people that you listen to on TV or the radio don't answer this very well. So let's see if we can answer it better. So Judas threw the money into the temple and left. Then he went away and hanged himself. That's after, Jesus is being tortured. Judas is remorseful. He wants them to let him go because he's innocent. And they refuse, and he throws the money at him, and he storms out and kills himself. So that's the death of Judas. But then in Luke's account in the book of Acts, it's a little different. It says, With the payment he received for the wickedness, Judas bought a field. There he fell headlong, his body burst open, and all his intestines spilled out. Well, that seems different, doesn't it?
He didn't hang himself, he hung himself with a sword.
Well, maybe.
Oh, he did.
Maybe.
How they would kill it when...
Well, it's maybe. I have not heard that one. That would not be my explanation, but I think that's a plausible one.
I just feel like he hung himself and then the rope broke and he fell down and...
It's very possible. So, but wait. So how did he buy the field?
Yes.
Maybe he bought that before he hung himself.
Well, let's look a little further in both accounts and see if we can get a bigger picture. So in Matthew it says, so they decided to use the money to buy a potter's field for the burial for foreigners. That is why the field is called the Field of Blood to this day. So the religious leaders used the money that Judas threw at them. So he bought it with his money.
It's money.
Technically, it's money.
It's your...
But it's tough to corroborate that, except Acts does it for us. If we read down in verse 19, which is a little later in the story, it says, everyone in Jerusalem heard about this. That's what was going on. And they called the field in their language Al-Qadima, which means the field of blood. You notice it's the field of blood in both cases. So in one case, he went out and bought the field. In the other one, the Pharisees went out and bought the field in his name, maybe even.
Oh, I think it's in his name.
It's his money.
Right? It's his money.
Mentioned like, that's his money, so...
Okay, so
Bought the field.
buying the field I can get. Okay, we don't even know if this is where he died, honestly, because it doesn't really tell us that he fell on the field. It just says
Yeah.
it could be. But what about the death? One is hanging and one is falling over and bursting open. Connie says it could be he fell on a sword. Well, if you hang there long enough, there will be. Actually, what I tend to believe is that he hung himself. And then when the rope broke, he fell forward and burst open, because you would burst open after hanging there for 5 days or so. And this description would be very consistent with
I
that.
don't see anywhere where people hung themselves. I don't find that way.
Yeah, the thing is, I understand, when they talk about falling on the sword, they say falling on the sword though. So the fact that they use the word hanging, it seems to deviate from the falling on the sword, which is used throughout the Old Testament. So it could be, because one's Greek and one is Hebrew. Either way, he died, and the falling forward and his guts spilling out is no different. And the fact is, it's not really about how he died, it's he died. Okay, it's not the different story. You can easily put these together into one cohesive story that makes sense. People will challenge you about it, but my point is, okay, so
He died.
Well,
He died.
hung himself, chances are, he didn't do a very good job of tying a knot and all that kind of stuff, so he hung himself enough to kill him, and then,
yeah.
the rope
After a couple of
Well,
days,
the splitting open is easy. If you ever see roadkill after a week, well,
they burst.
it does tend to look a little like that. So you can get there many different ways.
About the falling into sword, I think the Bible should have described it that way, because King Saul, when he died, it was described as he fell himself on the sword.
But again, that's Hebrew, and the thing is, Luke is writing in Acts, and I don't have any account in the New Testament of either one of those.
If it says that he hung himself, he should have hung himself, most likely.
I guess it's Matthew. Yeah, it's possible.
Well, yeah, that's true. Matthew is Jew.
Well, the point is, I believe that he probably hung himself because that's what it said, but how they meant that is up to interpretation. The point is, he died.
He died.
And
He killed
the proceeds from his wicked deed bought this field.
He killed himself.
And that's That's the story. The story is not in the details, it's in the message. And that's, I think, the message about inerrancy. And inerrancy is in men often err, but the Bible does not. The Bible's truth. And that's what we need to recognize. And I put it a different way. I just got to find it here. If your sense makes no sense, get a different sense. So if your interpretation leads to a contradiction in the Bible, it's not a contradiction in the Bible. It's your interpretation. Get a different interpretation.
It's you, it's not the Bible.
We have to hold to the doctrine of inerrancy because the Bible tells us truth. Word for word, very specific things that are not important to the overall message. And you got to say, well, who cares? Okay, we care about the topic that's being conveyed, not the specific words that are being used to convey it.
And you have to consider, too, we're reading a translation.
Amen. And I think that's one of those things you have to always get back to. It's a translation of, sometimes a translation. Jesus most likely spoke in Hebrew or Aramaic. It's written in Greek and we're reading it in English. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's gone through a few different languages to get to us. The message is consistent. The actual specific words, the translators are doing the best they can do with what we have. English is not the easiest language to translate.
I think even the way we see things may because some people will see glass of water with half, some will say half empty,
Yep.
and some will say half full.
You're so right, Alfred. Perspective matters, and cultural perspective matters. You can use the exact same word, and another culture, or even a different part of the country, will think something completely different. So word usage is always kind of nitpicking. Word usage is a total waste of time. You got to look at what the overall message is. And one of the things I like to do, and I call it author's intent or contextual reading of the Bible. If you have a scripture that you're having trouble understanding, if you go through it and write down all the adjectives and adverbs and then cross them out and then read it without all the idioms and metaphors and adjectives and adverbs. Now it will sound like an engineer telling you something. But if it has a subject and it has a verb, you're probably going to get the point, and then you don't have all that
Extra
stuff.
Well, it's just like what you said about in Ecclesiastes, where you said you thought Solomon was just kind of poking fun of himself. And once you said that, it's like the whole verse took on a whole new meaning.
Yeah, because then you look at the front and the back and you don't get weighed down with the middle stuff, right? Because it's all this really beautiful language, all making fun of himself, right?
And it made it look like he really was kind of like making fun of himself, you know, poking fun of himself.
It's a possibility for sure. So, okay. Why don't we take a break and then we'll come back and talk about all those Old Testament problems.